Hi, this is an alignment on a 93 Toyota. This is the kind of thing you do after replacing a tie rod end or maybe the whole steering rack. Got the emergency brake on, the parking brake, and that should be good enough. And I'll leave the jack up a bit for safety. Okay, both tires are off, and I'm going to sort of be combining two methods here, and you can sight right down those later. Now it's a matter of attaching or putting this thing on the wheel and put it here with 18 in the middle, 18 right under there, and clamp it. Get it to stay without moving. Looks like I'm clamping to some metal. Make sure I don't bend that. Just good enough to get this to stay put. There we go. And I did the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to measure the distance from here to the other yardstick and from here to the other yardstick and see if they're equal, which is what I'm shooting for. I've clamped the yardstick to the little block to make sure it's sturdy, also checking to make sure the clamp didn't move it. Now I've hooked the tape exactly on inch number 5, just to use that because it's as good as any. Now I'll move back to the other side. Okay, I'm going to measure very carefully 57 and 13/16. And I'm actually going to write that number down. Alrighty, this time I hooked it on 31 down there, and very carefully measure it. 57 and 9/16. Darn near 5/8. Let's call it 57 and 5/8. Helps to be able to read a tape. I think that's good enough. Now, believe it or not, I'm going to do it again because frequently it doesn't come out the same and you know you've done something wrong. That's funny, it's very close to the same. And we'll measure this one, and I'm sure this is off a little now. Alright, put that yardstick back. 31, and it's 57 and just over 5/8. I'm going to call that 11/16, but it's not quite. 57 and 5/8 plus. So 5/8 is 10/16, so it's 3/16 different. It's wider in the back. That's too much toe in, and now I'll adjust that. Okay, clearly we're looking at a tie rod end, and it's tight. So I'm going to loosen it up by putting the wrenches here and here and squeezing them together. There we go. And now I can put a 12mm on this, figure out which way it goes in. I have to squeeze these together, so I go this way, I believe. And I'll go this way a good that much. Fix the rubber boot and get that unkinked, which you might not be able to see, and measure again. So let's see here. The front was 57 3/4. This, oh my gosh, this is a little less than 57 3/4, but very, very close. Since it's a little less, it's almost like there's some toe out. pull this in, get the toe end back. No, push this out and get the toe end back. Just like this. $57 3/4. Okay. Step one complete. Now these were pretty close to begin with. If they'd have been way off, you'd have had to adjust a little here and a little on the other side to make sure the steering wheel stayed centered. So now we do part two, which is measuring outside of the yardstick where this sight is to outside of the other yardstick and get that measurement. Well, the truth is we've measured them over here, and they're both 57 3/4. So we're going to call this 57 3/4 from sight to sight. That would be the inside of the sight if you're being precise. So that's our measurement, and we're going to mark that on the back tires. Okay, I've duct taped one end of the tape to this groove, and let's see where this groove comes out. Oh, it's 58 1/16. Okay, that's good to know. 58 1/16 minus 57 3/4, which is 12/16. Same thing as 57 17/16 minus 57 12/16. Comes out to be 5/16. What does that tell us? Oh, that this one is 5/16 wider than this one. Oh, the grooves are. So we move them in 2 1/2/16 on each side, and we're perfect. It is, ooh, it's slipping over there, but it's very close to 57 3/4. Sight right down our yardstick. And it looks like we're about a 1/4 inch left. And that's okay because the other side's a 1/4 inch left too, so I'll turn the steering wheel and see if they both line up. Now it's pretty well lined up, and I'll check the other side. Other side, looking pretty good. So they're both pointing about straight back. Now I'm going to do the final check and see if the yardsticks are still the same distance apart, front and back, and that will mean everything is about right. The back was 57 11/16 plus front, front is 57 3/4 plus the front is wider than the back by a tiny bit. So I'll do that tiny little adjustment. Front's wider. We want the back to be a little wider. So we want to push the back out. So we go this way. That far. And we get 57 3/4 even in the front. 57 3/4 even in the back. That would seem to mean that it was lined up. And I just want a little bit of toe in, and I think I've read somewhere something like less than 1 millimeter difference here. And so all it takes is for me to push this out a little, which is a little bit of a turn. I sure hope I get this in the right direction. After Looking things over very carefully, I'm going to go, there's our toe in. I don't care. Okay. Couple of A10s, you gotta watch out for them. Time for the test drive. One more thing, front two tires were 28 PSI, back tires were 20 and 18. So that was interesting. After pulling to the left, now it pulls to the right. So seems to be a tire problem. And I've heard you can put the front tires on the back. Let's try that. Alright, tires exchanged front to back, and it's time for another test drive. Now, believe it or not, it's back to pulling left. So I'm going to just switch the right side this time, front to back. Alright, I've checked the tires. So, which way it pulls. For some reason it's good now, so we'll assume it's aligned and doing fine. Keep an eye on that tire wear and consider it a job well done.